on, guys? This is DropThisBox, and I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day today. And today I want to talk about one of my personal favorite Super Nintendo games. And yeah, I'm actually going to be talking about another one tomorrow, so also be sure to look forward to that video too, because that game I'm going to be talking about is my favorite game of that series, which I obviously will dive into a little bit later. But today we're going to be talking about some Donkey Kong Country, because I absolutely love Donkey Kong Country, and I gotta thank my aunt's friend for allowing us to play the game, because we didn't own the game, we borrowed it from her, so we were able to experience the game in full. So shout out to her for allowing us to play through that game, because Donkey Kong Country is a load of fun. And I just want to dive into my feelings overall when it comes to this game, and I'm going to be going over several things throughout this video, so I really do hope you guys enjoy this one. And if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to Donkey Kong Country, be sure to let me know down below. So from the very first time I played Donkey Kong Country, I knew right away this was something special. I mean, those graphics, wow. And for a Super Nintendo game, it looked so ahead of its time. I remember thinking, how do they even do this? Just seeing Donkey Kong swinging through those lush jungles and watching the whole environment felt so alive, like something that really blew me away as a kid. But it wasn't just the visuals that got me hooked. There was this sense of atmosphere that felt really immersive. The moment I saw Donkey Kong in his red tie, it felt like he was this larger-than-life character, and that music, from the first beat, it pulled me right in. I remember feeling like I was in a whole new world, one that was exciting but also a little mysterious. And right from the start, the gameplay felt smooth and responsive, and I loved how I could control both Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, each with their own unique strengths. It added a layer of strategy that made the game so engaging. I found myself excited to see what each level would bring, what new challenges or surprises were waiting for me. And looking back, I think those first impressions really set the tone for the entire game. It wasn't just another platformer that I played around the time, it was a whole experience. Even now, I can remember that excitement I felt booting it up for the very first time like it was yesterday. And Donkey Kong Country has some of the most memorable levels I've ever played, and a lot of them left a lasting impression on me. I'll never forget the minecart carnage level, because it was both thrilling and totally nerve-wracking. The speed and timing required made it so intense, and I loved that rush of adrenaline every time I made a jump. It's one of those levels that felt way different from anything else I've played before. And the variety, I mean, one minute you're deep in the jungle, then you're in the underwater paradise, and the next thing you know, you're exploring caves. Every level felt fresh and different, and it kept me on my toes. I really appreciated how each stage had its own vibe. Whether it was the background, the enemies, or the music, it was like each one was telling its own little story. And of course, I had my fair share of challenges too, because there were times I'd get stuck on a level and then it would drive me nuts. But looking back, I think that's what made the game so rewarding. Every time I finally got past a tough spot, I felt this huge sense of accomplishment, and I think those challenging moments are a big part of why this game has stuck with me over the years. I'd say that each of these levels left its mark on me. They weren't just stages to pass, they were mini adventures, each with their own atmosphere and sense of discovery, and that's something not every game manages to pull off. Now let's talk more about the soundtrack, because honestly, Donkey Kong Country wouldn't be the same without it. David Wise really created something special here. Each track brings such a unique feel to the game, and it does so much to set the mood. That underwater level theme, aquatic ambience, for example, it's almost relaxing, which feels so different from the usual intensity of platformers. It's like, just for a minute, you can get lost in the calmness of the music. And there were certain songs that just stuck with me, even all these years later. The jungle theme with its upbeat tempo made me feel like I was on a real adventure. And then there's that haunting melody in the cave levels that still sends chills down my spine. Each track had its own personality, and it really makes each level feel distinct. And it's funny because now, whenever I hear a few notes from any Donkey Kong Country song, I'm immediately hit with this wave of nostalgia. It brings me right back to sitting in front of the TV, controller in hand, fully immersed in the world of Donkey Kong. I think that's the power of a great soundtrack. It doesn't just complement the game, it becomes a part of the experience. So yeah, the music is one of the big reasons Donkey Kong Country still holds a special place for me. It's not just background noise, it's like the soul of the game, and that's something I think David Wise and the whole team nailed perfectly. One thing I really loved about Donkey Kong Country was the teamwork aspect between Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. The way they played off each other added so much to the game. Donkey Kong's strength and Diddy's agility felt like the perfect balance, and I loved how each one had their own strengths and weaknesses. It made me feel like I had options and a bit of strategy depending on what challenges were up ahead. And it was cool how this dynamic kept the gameplay interesting. If I needed someone to take down a tough enemy, I'd go with Donkey Kong, but if I wanted to be quick and nimble, Diddy was my go-to, and switching between them on the fly was just so satisfying. Felt like I had this little buddy along for the journey, and together we could tackle anything the game threw at us. And I think having that option to swap characters also added some replay value. I'd go back and try different strategies, seeing if I could handle certain levels better with one Kong over the other. It's funny how such a simple mechanic added so much to the overall experience. And looking back, the Donkey Kong and Diddy duo made the game feel a bit more personal. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about using teamwork to get through each challenge. It's definitely one of the things that sets Donkey Kong Country apart from other platformers I've played. And Donkey Kong Country wasn't an easy game by any stretch, and I think that's one of the reasons it stuck with me. Some levels were downright brutal, but in a way that felt rewarding rather than frustrating. Every time I'd finally get through a tricky level, I'd get this huge sense of accomplishment that kept me coming back for more. I remember certain challenges feeling like they required almost perfect timing or strategy. Sometimes it'd take a few tries or a few dozen tries, but that just made completing it even more sweeter. And I think the difficulty was part of what made Donkey Kong Country so memorable. It felt like the game respected my skills and challenged me to keep improving. And then there's the replayability factor. Even after I'd beaten it, I'd go back just to see if I could find more secrets or do better on a level. And there was always something new to uncover, which made the game feel richer and more layered every time I played. Though difficulty and replayability are part of what made this game feel like a real adventure, one that you could come back to again and again, and one of those games that's always worth picking up even years later. And another thing that Donkey Kong Country did so well was hiding all kinds of collectibles and secrets throughout the levels. There was this thrill in finding the Kong letters or those animal tokens because it gave each level a little extra challenge beyond just reaching the end. It always felt like there was something more to explore, something hidden just around the corner. For me, finding those Kong letters became almost like a personal goal. I'd go out of my way to collect every single one, even if it meant taking a few extra risks or revisiting tricky situations. It's funny how something as simple as 4 letters could add so much to the experience. And then there were the animal buddy tokens. Those added another layer of excitement, especially once I realized they could unlock secret bonus stages. I wouldn't say I was a 100% completionist back then, but Donkey Kong Country definitely brought out that side of me. I was always wondering if I missed something or if there was a hidden area I hadn't found yet, and every level felt like it had more to offer if I just took the time to look a little closer, and that kept me engaged way beyond just the main objectives. And those collectibles and hidden areas also added so much depth to the game. They made each playthrough feel unique even after I'd beaten the game. I'd go back just to see if I could uncover something new, and it's amazing how a few well-placed secrets and collectibles can make a game feel so much richer and more rewarding. And before Donkey Kong Country, platformers are pretty straightforward for me. Just get from one side of the level to the other and try not to fall off. But this game, unlike many others that I played around this time, really changed how I looked at the whole genre. It showed me that platformers could have depth, atmosphere, and even a bit more strategy. It felt like there was more to it than just jumping and avoiding enemies. This was one of the first games where I noticed how important the little details were. The textures, the music, and even the backgrounds added to the experience in a way I haven't seen before. The levels weren't just obstacles to get past, they were part of a bigger world, and that made me appreciate the thought that went into each stage. I think it made me realize that platformers could be just as immersive and meaningful as other genres. And after playing Donkey Kong Country, I found myself comparing other platformers to it, almost expecting that same level of detail and challenge. It set a new standard for what I thought a platformer could be. Suddenly, I wanted games that were more than just surface level fun. I wanted ones that could pull me in and make me feel like I was really on an adventure. Honestly, Donkey Kong Country is one of the reasons I got so hooked on platformers in the first place. It was the perfect mix of challenge, exploration, and style, and opened my eyes to how incredible these games could be when done right. I think it's safe to say that my love for platformers was born the day I picked up the SNES and I played Donkey Kong Country, along with the other game that I will be talking about tomorrow that made the most impact on my life. And even after all these years, Donkey Kong Country still feels like a classic to me. There's something timeless about it that keeps it feeling outdated. Even with all the advances in gaming since then, it's like the game is crafted with so much care and creativity that it just never loses its charm. Every time I go back to it, I'm reminded of why it left such a big impact on me. I think a big part of it was nostalgia. Sure, but it's more than that. The game holds up because it was generally well made. The graphics for one are still impressive, and the gameplay is just as engaging as ever. It's a game that doesn't rely on flashy effects or gimmicks. It's just solid, fun, and challenging in all the right ways. That's not something every game can pull off, especially years after its release. Playing it as my first Donkey Kong game definitely made it special for me. It was my introduction to this character and his world, and that connection has stayed with me. Even when new games came out, Donkey Kong Country has this unique place in my heart. It's not just about the game itself, but the memories of playing it and the impact it had on me as a gamer. So yeah, Donkey Kong Country is more than just a game for me. It's part of why I love gaming in the first place. It's one of those classics I played that you can always keep coming back to, knowing it'll just be as fun, challenging, and rewarding as the first time. And that's why even after all this time, it still holds a special place for me and always will. But overall, that is all I have to say about Donkey Kong Country in this video. I am very happy that I made this video because I love Donkey Kong, so Donkey Kong is definitely needed on this channel. So I am very happy that I can add another Donkey Kong video on my playlist. So it's really cool to just think of that I was able to put out another Donkey Kong video today, so that's pretty awesome. But I'm also just really glad that I was able to share my overall experience with you guys when it came to Donkey Kong Country, because like I went over, I had one hell of an experience with this game, and it was just very fun to share with you guys throughout this video. So if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to the Donkey Kong series that you guys want to share with me, be sure to let me know down below. And if you guys enjoy this content on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And if you guys want to follow me on my social media, be sure to check out my Facebook page, my Twitter, my Instagram, and my TikTok. All of that is located in the description below. Be sure to click on that bell for notifications so you guys are notified whenever I post a video on the channel. But other than that, I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be, if it's the daytime, and the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.